Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard. As you can see, I am alone today, but I'm going to be going through college football predictions for this upcoming season. Of course, we talked about our preseason top 25. We've now seen the AP top 25, seen the coaches poll, which obviously isn't as important in today's world. The college football rankings are the only ones that matter when the playoff rankings come out later in the year, anyways. But the AP poll gives us a good idea of where those are going to be at because they do have some information when they are making their poll. Obviously, if you guys are coming back, it's college football season. That's coming up in literally a week. Saturday, we got the big game in Dublin, Ireland. It's going to kick off the season. We'll be talking about that conference, of course. Two teams from that conference both competing potentially for a championship. And so it's just really fun to start diving back into college football, what this channel was built around. So obviously, we're diving back into it now. Again, if you guys enjoy the content, please follow along. It definitely helps out. And leave any comments below if you have any questions or if you have any something you want to request us to do in the future or talk about different things. We're always down for that. Of course, talking about Dalton, who'll be joining me probably for the next video, which will be our Week 0 predictions, where we talk about the first games of the college football season. So pretty excited for that. But starting it off here, going to talk about each conference champion and who we think can contend in these conferences. I'll give my pick as well as Dalton's, as he gave me a list of his picks that he has for the conference games. So, moving on to the Big 12 here. Starting out, this is going to be the first conference we speak about, and obviously you can see here, I've got the conference championship game being Arizona State and Kansas State. Two teams that, of course, had good seasons last year. Arizona State making the college football playoff, but they're going to have to reproduce a season where they were the champion of the conference without their superstar. Cam Skattebo, of course, goes on to the NFL, but I believe that they have a very good roster again. They return their leading receiver, who did miss the playoff, which was obviously a key piece of why they weren't able to win. And also they return a quarterback who is really, really good in Sam Leavitt, who I expect to be a top quarterback in the country probably, and can lead a really high-powered offense. Kenny Dillingham, a phenomenal head coach at Arizona State. And of course they got the transfer from Army and Kanye Udo, who could potentially be a really good running back who's not going to be a Cam Skattebo. He won't do it all in the receiving game, but he is a monster on the ground, and that obviously will make this team really good again running the ball, and I expect good defenses. Go on the other side of the ball with Kansas State, another team that runs the ball extremely well. Avery Johnson being the quarterback there, probably one of the more prolific rushing quarterbacks in the country. Can definitely make a lot of plays with his feet. He just has to not turn the ball over, and then probably, improve on his passing game, which isn't bad, but it can get better. And if he does that, man, I think Kansas State's going to be incredible. They have Dylan Edwards returning in that backfield, although they lost production there. He's still going to be really good. And they have a good, team around him. They always have a good offensive line. They generally have really good defenses, and they've just been there. They've been in the top of this conference for some time now. I expect Kansas State to be very competitive, but like I said before, I'm going to have Arizona State winning this conference yet again. I think that they're very good. I think they return a lot of talent. I think they have one of the best head coaches in the conference. I think that they are going to be able to get it done and make that college football playoff. And what likely will be a one-bid conference could be a two-bid conference. Again, if like I said, I have Kansas State up here at the top. I looked through the conference and their schedules for each of the teams and kind of did a prediction, and that's how I got here. And I think they're going to be really good. I think Kansas State will be really good. It's just hard with the conference schedule that they have if all these teams aren't ranked and helping them out. I don't know where they can end up at in that final ranking. Even if they go, 11-1 or 10-2, it could be really hard for them to make it. But I do have Arizona State winning. Talking about other contenders, I'm going to have Dalton's champion of this conference at number one of my other contenders. That's going to be Baylor. Dalton believes that they're going to be on the team to beat. Dave Aranda had an absolutely awesome end of the season last year as the head coach at Baylor. And of course, Sawyer Robinson is awesome. The quarterback at Baylor can very well be the best quarterback in the conference. He's really, really good, can lead this offense to a high scoring. And again, their defense at the end of the year last year was awesome. They went on a huge winning streak. So maybe they can repeat some of that. Utah, they're going to return another good football team. I mean, their defense might be the best in the conference. If they can just find some production from that offense, which is now drastically improved when it comes to personnel, again, I think they can win a lot of games, and maybe they can vie for that title in this conference. I do love the transfer of Devin Dampier. Texas Tech, a team that has to be mentioned because they spent so much money in the offseason to improve this roster, had an absolutely ridiculous portal class. And they do look like they can compete. It's just I worry that the defense won't have any continuity. They have never played together. There's a lot of guys from a lot of different places that did not play this style of football and this playbook with this coaching staff. So it's going to be interesting to see how they put things together. Do think they'll be a top, 5-6 team in the conference, but I don't see them playing for the championship. And then Iowa State, Rocco Becht returns at quarterback. They did lose a lot of talent on the outside, losing both of their star receivers. But I do expect that they will be very good again. They probably will have a pretty good defense. They should be able to run the ball well. And again, if Rocco Becht is what he was last year, they're going to be up there. It's just I don't see them competing for the championship game. Do think they're a contender, though, in the conference. Moving on to the Big Ten. Likely the best conference in football last year, I believe. They had a lot of very good football teams top the conference, especially. And if you're looking at the top of this conference once again, they could be very good, although I do think the SEC will have the edge this year. I want to look at the top of this conference and say Penn State might be the best team in the country. And obviously, you see, I have them in that conference championship game playing against Ohio State. Penn State would be your regular season champ. And I'm going to have them win in this conference as well. I'm going to have them win in the Big Ten championship game. This would probably be one of James Franklin's biggest wins of his entire career, if not the biggest. They can go out there and beat this Ohio State team because they have a quarterback that is returning. They have a system that works really, really well. They have two running backs that are arguably 1-3 or 2-3. I think the best running back in the country comes from Notre Dame and Jeremiah Love, but the other two guys, 2-3, could be their two running backs, and it's ridiculous when you can put that out there on the field in Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. And again, they improved in the portal at the receiver position, Trebor Pena being one of their biggest additions. I think this team is just really, really good. On paper, again, I love this roster. I think that their defense is going to be really good, even though they lost a lot of talent. They just always are able to replenish that. On the other side, of course, Ohio State, who I do have being the runner-up, they're very good, of course. I think QB being their biggest question mark is, what can they get out of the quarterback position, where Will Howard last year in the playoffs was incredible. He made every play when it mattered and was awesome and led them to that championship, of course, with a really strong defense and the best receiver in the country who's back in Jeremiah Smith. I think they're going to be incredible because it really doesn't matter who's at quarterback. If you can throw the ball to that freak on the outside, you're going to score a lot of points. They're going to be able to run the ball again because their offensive line is going to be solid. It always is. But I just expect the dynamic duo of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith to be completely unstoppable. A lot of teams don't even have corners that can match up with one of the two, much less take care of both of them. And again, as long as the quarterback can have competent play and get the ball to them, they're going to make plays. And this is going to be a really good team yet again. And then on the other side of the ball, they probably have the best player in the country in Caleb Downs. So we're talking about the best defensive player and the best offensive player on the same team. As long as quarterback is not a huge issue, they're going to be really good. Moving on to my other contenders here, I've got Oregon, who I think will be once again at top of the conference. They're going to have a good football team. I don't necessarily think they're the best team in the conference, though. I don't think they're going to be playing for that championship, of course, but I do expect a lot out of them. Dan Lanning, a phenomenal coach, and again, they have weapons everywhere. Going to be quarterback plays, the question mark. Michigan. This team was awesome at the end of the year last year, and they still didn't have any quarterbacks. Now they do. They have a five-star in Bryce Underwood, who looks like he's ready to play. I don't think it's confirmed that he'll be the starter, but I think there's a world where he definitely is the starter. And then they have an awesome, group of offensive linemen. They have a really good running back, transferred over from Alabama. And again, this team was really good without a quarterback at the end of the year last year. So you add in a quarterback that is clearly more talented than what you had, and then you have one of the best defenses in the entire country, as they do and as they have had for the last 5 or 6 years. I expect Michigan to be very good. Illinois. Again, a team that returns a lot of talent. I love Luke Altmaier. I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he really improved last year. I do hate that he lost his star receiver on the outside in Pat Bryant. I hate that they lost some of their weapons, and that's why I'm not going to have them competing for the conference championship game, but maybe watch out for competing for a playoff spot. I think they'll be in that top 15 and can maybe sneak in there. And then Indiana. Curt Cignetti says, all I do is win. I expect they'll just win. They don't have a super hard schedule yet again, and Fernando Mendoza is a better quarterback than Curtis Rourke, in my opinion. And so the quarterback got better. He kept his leading receiver, and again, they're going to win football games this year, and I think they're coached really well, and that's going to help them compete for sure in the Big Ten Conference. Moving on to what is probably the best conference in football this season, we're talking about a ton of contenders that I won't even be able to sneak some of them on the list because it is such a good conference. You can see my conference championship game. I'm being normal. I'm being average here and just saying what everybody else is saying. It's Texas LSU. I have Texas winning the conference championship game. I think their roster is absolutely loaded. I mean, they are top to bottom the best roster in football, in my opinion. They have superstar talent on the defensive side of the ball that can make up for what they lost. And then on the offensive side, again, Arch Manning can be a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers easily. So There's a lot of room to be that much better, and this team was in the playoff and playing in the semifinal. So if the quarterback gets that much better, the team will get that much better. They have a really good running back duo in the backfield in Quintravion Weisner and C.J. Baxter. I just expect a lot out of this team. I love the receiving core. I think it's gotten a little, it lost talent. Of course, Matthew Golden goes to the league, Bond goes to the league, so it's hard to replace those guys. But I just think that they've replaced it with good talent, and they're going to be very competitive yet again. And then on the other side, LSU falls short of the championship game, but this is a big moment for them because they're going to be in the college football playoff if they're finishing second in the SEC, probably one of the top seeds, truthfully. And again, I expect Garrett Nussmeier to be awesome. I think this offense is going to run teams off the field. They are so good on offense. They're loaded with talent. I love Caden Durham as a running back. I think that they have some really strong receivers on the outside. I think their defense returns a ton of talent that can improve on last year even. They were guys that didn't maybe meet expectations that if they come out and play the way they're supposed to, this defense is going to be really, really good. Again, you can see those two teams to me separate themselves from this next group of of teams in the conference, but it's not a huge gap. I mean, this conference is really, really good. You can see my next contender going to be Alabama. I think that they have to. They have to be really good. If DeBoer isn't great this season, if this team isn't great this season, the Bama fans are going to be raging. They're going to be flipping out, and I do expect that Alabama will once again be very good. They're going to get into this playoff this year. I do think Ty Simpson is a big question mark. I think there's a world where they're not as good as they look like they can be because Ty Simpson just isn't the answer at quarterback. But at the same time, if he's just really solid, it doesn't have to be a superstar. Their defense is loaded and they have weapons. I expect them to be very good. And again, DeBoer's a great coach, so I expect he'll be able to win games for them. Moving on to Georgia, and this is probably going to be my hottest take of the video. I think even though Georgia, for me, is finishing fourth in the SEC, I think they missed the playoffs because of the loss they take in the last week of the season. So that's a super hot take, probably my hottest take that I'll have in this video. But I just don't trust Gunnar Stockton as much as I trusted other quarterbacks. I think he might even be worse than Carson Beck, and I know that's hard to say because Beck had a really bad season last year, but he was super talented, and the year before he looked great. So I don't know. They're going to be coached extremely well. They have a ton of playmakers. Their offense does look like it's loaded with talent. They should be able to run the ball better than they did last year. But I just have worries that I have them sitting at 9-3 on the season, and that's three losses. And if the last one comes that last week, what if they decide to leave them out because their strength of schedule isn't as good as the other teams in the conference? And then, of course, they could always make it in. And then I have A&M, team that I'm higher on than I guess a lot of people would be because they don't usually have a lot of success, although they have good rosters and they spend a lot of money on their teams. They don't seem to win, but I just expect them to be very good this year. They had a lot of close games last year that they could have won. They could have been even more competitive and even higher up in the rankings, and they were still in the conversation going into the last week of the season. So I think they're a really good team. I think they got better. I think they're coached well. I expect this team to be competing. And then last but not least, you're going to see I left off Florida. I left off South Carolina. I didn't talk about those two teams. I think they're solid teams. I just don't think they're in this group of contenders. And then Oklahoma being my last team. John Mateer transfers in. And if you don't know the name John Mateer, you will know the name. He is incredible. He is really, really good. One of my favorite quarterbacks in the country. He's going to make a lot of different plays that you're going to be like, how the heck did he do that? He's one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the country. And he's finally going to have a really good team around him. I think Brent Venables can coach up a defense, and this team is loaded with defensive talent. I just expect Oklahoma to be very good. I'm not sure if they'll, win every game. They probably lose that Red River rivalry game, but again, I just expect them to be really good. And there's a world where Oklahoma makes the playoff and Georgia misses it, even though I have Georgia finishing higher in the conference technically based on win-loss. I just think Oklahoma's going to be solid, and I expect that they can push for the playoff this year. Moving on to the ACC, you're going to see my conference championship game, and you're going to say, whoa, you have that team in the conference championship game? This could be my other hottest take. Clemson versus Georgia Tech, and that was the team I was talking about. I have Georgia Tech beating Georgia last week of the season. Call me crazy. Georgia Tech returns a ton of talent. Their receiving core, although they lost a player, got better. It's disgusting how good this team is. Their overall skill talent is incredible. Their offensive line drastically improved. They're coached like the best in the ACC. I mean, you could argue that with Brent Key being that good of a coach. And again, I love Haynes King and Jamal Haynes. I just love that backfield duo, Haynes and Haynes. They are going to tear things up in the rushing attack. And I just expect a ton out of this team. They were that close to beating Georgia last year. It took, 7, 8 whatever that game was, 7 or 8 overtimes. I think they can do it, man. I do. I really do. And I think this team's going to be really, really good. As you can tell, I have Clemson, Georgia Tech again. Like I said, that's a matchup in the regular season. So I've got Clemson winning it both times. That doesn't happen often. That doesn't happen that both times a team wins. So maybe Georgia Tech sneaks out there and wins one of the two, and then they're really up there in the conversation. Obviously, if I have that happening, this is two playoff teams in Clemson and Georgia Tech. I do have Clemson winning it all, as I think they're a national championship contender, one of the best teams in the entire country. I expect a lot out of them. Of course, Cade Klubnik is incredible. He showed last year how good of a quarterback he can be. He is definitely a Heisman contender and potentially could be the Heisman pick for me. He's definitely up there. And then, like I said, with Georgia Tech, talking about that roster talent, I just expect a lot out of them. Then you look at other contenders in this conference. Miami is going to be very good. If Carson Beck is the same guy he was 2 years ago, they could very easily replace Georgia Tech in that conference championship game. But I just don't think they're going to be as good as Georgia Tech. I'm just higher on the coaching staff. I'm higher on the home games are better for Georgia Tech. They play in an actual college football stadium, whereas Miami's playing in Hard Rock. It's not the same. The environment isn't as hard to play in a home game. And so I think that can factor into those close ones down the stretch where you're not actually in a college atmosphere. And then Louisville, coached like the best. They are incredible. Miller Moss transfers in. They do think they got one there with him. And of course, Isaac Brown in that backfield is ridiculous. He may be the best running back in the conference, and it's a really strong conference of running backs. So a lot to watch Louisville for. They could be a big time team that upsets some teams in this conference and makes the playoff themselves. Then you see I've got UNC and Duke, the two teams that absolutely hate each other in basketball. Not as heated in football, but I expect a lot out of these two teams. UNC, I don't know if I'm just drinking the lemonade or whatever they want to say, but Chapel Bill. I mean, this dude has recruited, and the portal was incredible. The recruiting classes have both been incredible. And I guess you say what player doesn't want to play for Bill Belichick? I expect he comes in here and wins games this year. He got a good transfer quarterback in Gio Lopez, and I do like the roster around them. I think that they got so much better in the transfer portal. They added to a lot of their weaknesses and made them better. And although they also got like a Marion Hampton in that backfield, they should still be able to run the ball pretty well. And I just expect a lot out of UNC, and they also don't have the hardest schedule in the conference. So I can find this team being at 9-3 potentially. And then Duke, they were pretty good last year, and they drastically improved their quarterback position. Darion Mensah is incredible. That's the best word for him. He is a phenomenal quarterback. He can definitely change the way that this team plays football. Their defense is going to be incredible. Got to give some respect to SMU as they made the playoff last year. I do think they're going to get worse. I think they lost a lot, but they are coached well, and Kevin Jennings is back. So there's definitely some things to say about that team. And then call me a homer. I've got VT on here. They're not really a contender for the conference championship game, but I had UNC, Duke, SMU, and VT all tied with the exact same conference record, so I'm going to have them all listed here. Tech last year was the darling. They were the team that people were saying was the sleeper, the dark horse. They can win it. Tech got a pretty good draw for the schedule this year. It's not super difficult. They have pretty solid out of conference games. I do think Vanderbilt's winnable. I think the two, you got cupcake games after that. And if you're looking at a game where you're walking into NC State at 3-1, that's a winnable game to me. And again, that's one of those toss-up games down that stretch of games. But I had them sitting at 8-4 and 5-3 in conference play. And I just think they find a way to upset somebody because we just seem to be able to do that and then lose to a team we shouldn't. And so I see that happening somewhere on the schedule. I won't release all my picks now because down the road somewhere it might be fun if I pick that same upset later down the year. But I just think that there's something's going to happen. Something's going to go crazy. I think we drastically improved our offensive line. And again, I love Kyron Drones. I think he's a really talented quarterback. And if he's healthy, man, we really improved the coaching staff. So I think Philip Montgomery was an awesome OC. Maybe he can coach them up. And again, this conference is not extremely difficult like the SEC or like the Big Ten. So it's winnable. Those games in that inside the conference that aren't Clemson and aren't Louisville, Miami, Georgia Tech, who we happen to play all three. It just seems like there's some winnable games on there for us, and I expect us to be able to at least put ourselves in the conversation. And if we don't, things are going to change at Virginia Tech. Moving on to the final playoff spot, I guess you would call it, as I only see there's really any chance one team makes it from the group of five. I've got them ranked here in order of how I think most likely to make the playoff, but I could easily rotate on these. I think that the top three to me are kind of separating themselves a little bit from 4 and 5. I think Boise is going to be really good again. The roster, they lost Ashton Jeanty, but they kept a lot. They kept a ton of talent. Their defense kept most of their really good players, and they're going to be good again. I expect them to dominate in those smaller conference games where they're playing, like I said, a group of five teams or group of six now. I don't know what you want to call it, but and then Tulane coached extremely well. Again, this is a team that they've got a quarterback situation that could get very interesting. Jake Retzlaff is here from BYU last year, who me and Dalton talked a lot about, and we seem to pretty much like him every time we talked about him. And if he's the quarterback and takes over, man, that's an interesting situation. You've got a Power Five guy who led a BYU team to a potential playoff spot, who just blew it down the stretch playing in a group of five scenario. That's a lot less talented teams, and it's not, there's definitely some super talented guys out there still, but that's not as good as those power conference teams. I don't know if he'll even get the job because he joined them late, but look for him to potentially play at some point this year, and that's a really good quarterback in that system. Then you look at Navy, and this is probably I just hope it happens. If Navy goes 12-0, they're going to make the college football playoff if they win their conference championship, so that would be 13-0. They're going to make the college football playoff because they're going to be highly ranked. It would be so fun to watch the triple option against a good team, against a really good power school, and just see if they're not ready for it. See if Navy can pull it off and just pull off this insane upset and win a college football playoff game, which would just be so awesome. Of course, Blake Horvath at quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I'm going to say that now. And again, that might sound crazy, is at Navy. But man, he is elite. He runs the ball better than I've seen any quarterback. He's one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the country for sure. And he actually can pass the ball pretty well. For what they do in their triple option scheme, they let him throw the ball a little bit. He can make plays, man. They got Hendon Wright back in the backfield. They got Alex Texa back. This roster is pretty fun. It's really just really fun, and I expect them to be good this year. UNLV. This is one of the most fun picks of the year. Dan Mullen back to coaching college football. It's good for the sport. And UNLV goes out and adds Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji in the quarterback position. That is a Michigan quarterback and UVA's quarterback from last year. And I think Calandria is pretty talented. I think that there was definitely some upside for him at UVA. It's definitely a loss when they lost him. And then Alex Orji, of course, he fits the Dan Mullen scheme more of wanting to run the quarterback heavily. And so we'll see which one they play, and maybe there's sets for both of them to play. But I just love UNLV's roster. I think they did well in the portal to add additions that can make them a competitor in the group of five. And Dan Mullen's a good coach, so I can see him winning games here. And then last but not least, we've got Toledo. This is a roster that was set up to win last year as well. Jason Candle, great head coach, can definitely win you some games. They return their quarterback. They return a lot of their production on offense. And they're, again, a competitive team in the MAC conference. I expect Toledo to compete. I expect them to be able to win their conference championship, and that would obviously put them in a situation where they could be the representative of the group of five or group of six, whatever you want to call it, in the college football playoff this upcoming season. So that's pretty much it. That's all my teams. That's all my conference champions. Again, wanted to mention that Dalton does believe he thinks Clemson is going to win the ACC. He thinks Texas is going to win the SEC. He has the Big 12 being won by Baylor, and he has the Big 10 being won by Penn State. That is his conference champions. And last but not least, his group of five representative was Boise State, who is probably the heavy favorite to be that team. But again, that was his picks. He will be joining us for week 0, which will come out on Thursday. And again, super excited for college football to return. It is the best time of year in sports when college football gets rolling. Again, follow along, please. This channel, I have loved it. I have loved every bit of it. It is super fun to just get to sit here and talk college football. And I love producing it and putting the product out. And I hope you guys love watching it because, again, it is so much fun for us. I just can't wait, man. Saturday can't come soon enough. That first game is going to be actually an important one for a potential playoff spot. I mean, you're talking about one of the two teams I had in my conference championship in the Big 12 could lose that soon and ruin my prediction. But again, thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe, follow along, leave a comment if you have anything you want us to do, and peace.